Let's assign a rating in every competitive state on the 2024 Electoral College map based on the latest polls and making sure to include independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in all of the states that he has claimed to have qualified for the ballot. First, we'll go ahead and fill in all of the states not expected to be competitive this cycle. Now, these states, colored in the deepest shade of blue or red, voted for Joe Biden or Donald Trump by more than 12 percentage points in 2020. And there is no reason to think at this point, based on current polling data, past results, or demographic trends, that these deep red states will be in play for the Biden re-election campaign. And vice versa, Trump is not going to contest a state like New York or Illinois. It would be a waste of valuable campaign resources. And so that leaves us with just these 17 states and the competitive 2nd congressional districts in Nebraska and Maine, combining for a total of 225 electoral votes that will ultimately decide the 2024 race. Now, according to Decision Desk HQ and The Hill, RFK Jr. has qualified for the ballot in 14 states, worth a total of 201 electoral votes. Yet they have only confirmed his status with state officials in 3 of these states: Utah, Oklahoma, and Michigan, worth 28 electoral votes. Now, for our purposes today, we're going to look at the latest poll that includes RFK in all of the orange and purple states on this map, while looking at just the head-to-head Biden versus Trump polls in all of the gray states. And with that said, let's start in what I believe to be the most important battleground this cycle, Pennsylvania. With 19 electoral votes, it's the largest prize of the 5 key swing states that voted for Trump in 2016 and then Biden in 2020. The others being Michigan and Wisconsin, also in the Rust Belt, and then in the Sun Belt we have Georgia and Arizona. RFK Jr. has not yet qualified for the ballot in Pennsylvania, so instead we'll use this latest survey by the Cook Political Reports in their series of polls they conduct with both a Republican and Democratic polling firm, GS and BSG, which shows Trump leading Biden in a head-to-head race by 3 points, with 48% to 45% among 730 likely voters. Now that means that we'll place Pennsylvania down as tilting towards Republicans here on the Electoral College map. Keep in mind that throughout this video, the states with margins between 0 to 3% are tilt, 3 to 7% are lean, 7 to 12% are likely, and greater than 12% solid or safe. Let's go to Michigan, where DDHQ has officially confirmed RFK's ballot access with the Secretary of State's office. The latest survey by Prime Group has Biden leading Trump by 2 points when including RFK, Independent Cornel West, and Green Party nominee Jill Stein. This poll surveyed 482 registered voters between May 9th and 16th, and Biden received 44%, Trump 42%, Kennedy 10%, and then West and Stein at 2% each. Now, that Biden plus 2 number translates over to a tilt Democrat margin on the map. Remember that Biden won Michigan by 3 points in 2020. Down in Ohio, another state where RFK has qualified for the ballot, in the most recent survey with him included from all the way back in March by East Carolina University, is Trump up over Biden by 11 points among almost 1,300 likely voters. That's obviously a strong margin for Trump. Ohio goes down as likely Republican. Keep in mind that no Republican presidential candidate has ever secured an electoral college victory without winning Ohio. The latest survey conducted in Virginia by Fabrizio Ward and Impact Research is Biden leading by only 1 point in a state that he carried by 10 in 2020. This poll is from late April and it surveyed 500 registered voters with Biden at 43% and Trump at 42%. That is a tilt Democrat margin here in Virginia, a much closer margin than the Biden re-elect would probably like to have here in the Commonwealth when all is said and done. But anyways, we can move down the East Coast to North Carolina. RFK has qualified here, and so the latest survey by Morning Consult and Bloomberg News from mid-May has Trump leading by 8 points among 704 registered voters. Trump 46%, Biden 38%, Kennedy 7%, and then West and Stein trailing further behind at 1% each. This is, of course, a likely Republican margin on our electoral map, which would be a very strong showing for Trump considering that he only carried it by 1 point in 2020. Now, if there is a state on the 2024 map in which the Biden campaign could potentially go on offense in an effort to expand their coalition, it would be here in the Tar Heel states. Otherwise, the re-election campaign is pretty much playing defense everywhere else. Let's go down to Georgia now, where again we have this group of surveys by Cook Political Reports with both a Democratic and Republican polling firm. This one has Trump leading by 3 points among 600 likely voters. The rating for Georgia will therefore be lean Republican based on this Trump plus 3 result. It was the closest state in 2020 as Biden carried it by only 0.2%. Finishing up the southeast coast, let's take a look at Florida, where RFK has not yet qualified for the ballot. Florida is actually one of the most difficult states for third parties in terms of ballot access. The latest survey from mid-May by CBS News in consultation with YouGov has Trump up by 9 points over Biden in a head-to-head contest, with 54% to 45% among almost 1,200 likely voters. That is again a likely Republican margin. From here, let's also wrap up our 2 Northeast states, starting in New Hampshire, where RFK has qualified according to his campaign, and the latest survey that includes him in New Hampshire, conducted by the University of New Hampshire between May 16th through 20th, has Biden's lead at 3 points over Trump, 44% to 41%, with Kennedy polling at only 3% among 1,139 likely voters. Now that's a lean Democrat margin favoring Biden on the map, though it is narrower than he would probably like it to be considering that he did carry New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020. Then up in Maine, the most rural state in the country, and also the oldest in terms of the number of seniors living there. Now those are 2 demographic data points that do tend to favor Republicans, as rural and older voters do tend to be more conservative in terms of voting patterns. Yet Maine also has a large number of college graduates, which does help Democrats maintain their dominance, as Maine has not voted Republican at the presidential level since 1988. That being said, the latest survey by Zogby Strategies from mid-April has Trump leading Biden by 2 points among 350 likely voters. That's a tilt GOP margin. Now, this alone would not necessarily be disastrous for the Biden campaign, as the winner of Maine's statewide popular vote only nets 2 electoral votes. But remember that Maine and Nebraska do split their distribution, awarding 2 to the statewide winner and 1 per congressional district. And the latest poll in the northern 2nd District in Maine has Trump up by 20 points, a safe Republican margin. Meanwhile, over in the 2nd District of Nebraska, the latest survey has Trump up by 3 points, according to public policy polling, 46% to 43%, and that is another tilt Republican margin. Now, this would be especially significant as Biden did win this Omaha-based 2nd District by 6 points in 2020. It is a very urban district with a lot of college grads, and it has trended hard to the left in recent elections. But the primary reason why it is significant is because if we do assume that all of the other states on the 2020 map vote the same as they did in 2020, yet Trump sweeps these Sunbelt swing states, including Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, then the 2nd District in Nebraska would make the difference between a 270 to 268 Biden victory and a 269 to 269 tie. A scenario that would most likely result in a Trump presidency as the House of Representatives would vote to break the tie. For more on this, I do suggest you watch the video that will pop up in the top right-hand corner right now. Let's shift all the way back over to Wisconsin now, though. The latest survey, again by Cook, in their series of polls they conduct with 1 Dem and 1 GOP polling firm, GS and BSG, has a tied race between Biden and Trump in Wisconsin, as both candidates are at 45% among 503 likely voters, surveyed between May 6th and 13th. Now, this means that we'll have to create an entirely new category here, labeled even, with the color purple, which will assign to Wisconsin. The latest poll in Minnesota has Biden leading Trump by 2 points among 625 likely voters in this survey by Survey USA from earlier in May. 44% Biden, 42% Trump. This translates over to a tilt Democrat margin on our electoral map. Down in Iowa, RFK is qualified in Iowa, But unfortunately, we don't have any polls yet that include all three candidates. So instead, we'll have to resort to the latest head-to-head poll by Signal Research, showing Trump leading Biden by 9 points among 600 likely voters in mid-February. Now, that is another likely Republican margin in Iowa. Alrighty, let's head over to the southwest corner of the map, starting in Alaska, the last frontier, which obviously isn't actually part of the southwest region of the country. Geographically, it'd be way off the map up here, but the latest poll conducted by the Independent Center in late April has Trump leading Biden by 19 points among 250 registered voters. Now that is a strong, safe Republican margin. Trump did only win Alaska by 10 points over Biden in 2020. That was the closest Republican win since Richard Nixon won it by only 3 points in 1968. But regardless, that leaves us with 4 states remaining here across the Southwest. And remarkably, we have an exact tie right now in the race to 270 electoral votes, as both candidates currently sit at 233 electoral votes apiece. Just 62 electoral votes remain across these 4 remaining states, where we'll start in Nevada. Biden plus 2.4 in 2020, he did carry it by the same margin as Hillary Clinton in 2016, which means that the silver state actually shifted right compared to the rest of the nation, as Biden did win the national popular votes by a larger margin than Clinton did. Now RFK Jr. has claimed ballot access in Nevada, and the latest survey by Florida Atlantic University, interestingly enough, has Trump leading Biden by 4 points among this sample of 522 registered voters between May 19th and 21st. Trump is at 44%, Biden 39.8%, and then Kennedy at 8.6%. So technically speaking, the margin is actually Trump plus 4.2. It's just rounded down to 4 points. Either way, though, it does mean that Nevada will lean Republican. Then, down in Arizona, the latest survey in the Grand Canyon state has Trump up 1 point over Biden, 45% to 44%, among 527 likely voters, again from this batch of BSG/GS surveys from May 6th through 13th. That's obviously another tilt Republican margin. Remember, Arizona was the second closest state in 2020 after Georgia at Biden plus 0.3. The Democrat did only win by roughly 11,000 votes. It was the narrowest state in terms of raw vote margin difference between Biden and Trump. It had only gone Democrat once over the previous 17 elections before 2020. Now let's go to New Mexico, the only plurality Hispanic state in the U.S. Biden won it by 11 points in 2020. It has not voted Republican since 2004. But the GOP has made gains among Hispanic voters over the last few cycles, perhaps most notably in its neighbor Texas. The latest poll in New Mexico, though, conducted by Zogby Strategies in mid-April, has Biden up by 7 points, which is about where I would expect him to be here relative to all these other margins we've seen in other states. New Mexico goes lean Democrat. And then finally, we have Texas, the Lone Star state with 40 electoral votes, the second highest tally after California. Trump's 5.6-point victory margin was the narrowest for Republicans since 1996, and Biden's 46.5% vote share was the highest for a Democrat since Jimmy Carter in 1976, which was the last time that Texas went blue. The Democratic Party has made a concerted effort to turn Texas into a competitive battleground over the last decade or so. But those efforts may have hit a wall in 2020, as like I said, Republicans have made significant gains among Hispanics, especially in South Texas. This Rio Grande Valley region shifted harder towards Republicans than any other area in the country outside of Miami-Dade in Florida. And that has kept the GOP afloat, even as urban areas like Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio have shifted further to the left. Democrats have also benefited from the state's rising populations of college grads, younger voters, and minorities. However, that being said, the latest survey from mid-April by the Texas Politics Project has Trump up 8 points over Biden, 48% to 40% among 1,200 registered voters. Now, that is another likely Republican margin, and it does lift Trump all the way up to 290 electoral votes. This would, of course, be enough to secure him the presidency over Joe Biden's 238, with 10 electoral votes rated as even, as the latest poll in Wisconsin shows a tied race. Otherwise, Trump has flipped Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada into the Republican column here on this latest poll-based map. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.